bright future. Every student matters.
Hi students, welcome to the session. In this session, we are going to talk about digestion in grass-eating animals. In the previous sessions, we talked about how the digestion was taking place in human beings and we saw the different organs and their functions. Now, we are going to start talking about the grass-eating animals and how do they digest. Now, to understand this, I would like you to go back and remember that you must have seen cows sitting, around your houses, maybe on the footpaths, and you must have seen them chewing, right? They are not particularly eating something; they just sit and chew on something. What is that, right? You must have wondered that why do these cows keep sitting somewhere and they keep on chewing on something, right? So we are going to talk about that process which will explain this activity that they are doing, right? So we'll talk about digestion in grass eating animals, but before that there is a question. What is that? Paheli wants to know why these animals, that is the grass-eating animals, cannot chew food properly at the time they take it in. Another question is, Bujo wants to know why we cannot digest cellulose like the cattle do. So both of these questions will be answered in this particular session. First of all, let's talk about the question that Paheli has asked. What happens exactly is that when your cow, whenever it is feeding, we know that cow is a herbivorous and usually feeds on the grass, right? So what it does is basically at the time of eating, what it does it quickly swallows the grass and stores it in a part of the stomach that is called as the rumen, right? Let's look at the structure of structure and the digestive system of a grass eating animal. So students, this is, as you can see, is a cow. Once the grass has been eaten, basically whenever they are grazing in the field, they eat up a lot of grass and they simply swallow it without chewing. If you remember, when we are eating, when we were talking about the digestion in human beings, we saw that the very first step was cutting and chewing the food. But in the case of these grass-eating animals like cows, what they do is they cut the grasses and they swallow it, and it is stored in this rumen, right? So when they swallow the food, that is the grass that they are eating, it is stored in the structure of the stomach, a part of the stomach called as the rumen, where the food gets partially digested. So partial digestion takes place. Partial digestion takes place in rumen, that is the part of the stomach. Then what happens once the food is partially digested? It is called as the cud, right? So what is a cud? Cud is the partially digested food. Now from this, what happens is, this partially digested food known as the cud, what it happens, it returns, right? It returns back. So from here, if you follow the blue arrow, you will see that it goes into the rumen part and stays into the rumen, gets digested, and after that it comes back. Over here, if you see, it comes back to the mouth, right? And this cud comes, once it comes back into the mouth, the next step is that the cud returns to the mouth, and this is the cud that the cows are chewing. Now whenever you will see the cow chewing something, they sit at a place and they keep on chewing, that is the cud that returns to their mouth in small portions, right? And once that cud is chewed, then it goes into the digestion, right? So once the cud is chewed, it goes into further digestion. So first the partial digestion in the rumen takes place, then the cud, this partially digested food known as cud, goes back into the mouth, and here the cow or other grass eating animal like your bulls, they chew it and then they go into the digestion, right? This whole process is known as rumination, right? This whole process is known as rumination, and the animals are called as the ruminant, right? The animals in which this process takes place are called as the ruminants, right? Now, the grass that these animals are eating, these ruminants are eating, this grass contains a particular type of carbohydrate called as the cellulose. The bacteria that are present in these animals, in the gut of these animals, help in the digestion of cellulose. That is why other organisms cannot digest this particular type of carbohydrate. So the question that Bujo had asked, that Bujo wants to know why we cannot digest cellulose like the cattle do, because cellulose is a very, very complex carbohydrate, and in your ruminants like your deer and cattle, there are certain kinds of bacteria which will assist, right? They have certain kind of bacteria in their rumen which will assist in the digestion of this cellulose, right? So because of this reason, we do not have rumen and we do not have those bacteria, and that is why animals animals including the humans cannot digest cellulose, right? So absence of rumen and its bacteria, right? This is the cause why we are not able to digest the cellulose, that is a very complex carbohydrate. Right? Now, this was all about the animals like your cows and deers. There are other types of animals like your horse, rabbit, right? Horse and rabbit. These have another special type of feature known as the cecum, right? So they have a large sac-like structure. This is the cecum that we are talking about. They have cecum, right? This is a large sac-like structure, right? This is a large sac-like structure known as the cecum, which is present. The location is between the esophagus and small intestine. Right? So what is it? Between esophagus and small intestine. So it's a sac-like structure where the cellulose that is eaten by these animals like your horse and rabbit is digested. Again, it happens because of the bacteria that are present in the cecum. So that's why we see that the herbivorous animals like horse, rabbit, cows and deers are able to digest these these complex carbohydrates, that is the cellulose, easily as compared to the human beings because of these special structures. In cows we find rumen, and in animals like your horse and rabbit we find a special sac-like structure called as the cecum, which contains bacteria that are able to digest this cellulose, and these bacteria are absent in your human beings, right? This is all about the animals that have a proper digestive system. They have a particular area which we call as the mouth to obtain the food, that is the ingestion. There are certain animals which do not have this complex system. They have a very simple way of obtaining their food. We'll talk about those animals in the next session. For now, it is important for us to understand that how do these grass-eating animals digest their food. Up till now, we've talked about the digestion in human beings and the digestion in the grass-eating animals. In this session, we are going to talk about a specific kind of organism that is made up of just one cell. Now, if you think about it, the animal which has only one cell will definitely not have any kind of a digestive system, because like in the previous sessions we saw that the digestive system consists of various organs. That means they are a part of a multicellular organism. This organism that we are going to talk about is a unicellular organism known as amoeba. When we say unicellular, that means that it is of only one cell, right? So this animal has just one cell, and this cell performs all the functions that will help it in sustaining life, right? That means all the life processes, including breathing, getting nutrition, respiration, and your reproduction. All of these functions are performed by amoeba only. Now, understand that this unicellular organism also needs energy, because again, it's a living organism, right? So, because it needs energy, so it needs to obtain food. Before that, let's understand that what is the structure of the amoeba. Now, amoeba is a particular, it's a typical cell which has all these structures that are present in a cell. What are these? It has a cell membrane, right? We've studied that cell membrane is the outer covering of the cell. So because it's a unicellular organism, so the amoeba has a cell membrane which resembles to the cells that we have in animals. Then it also has a nucleus, as you can see over here. It has a nucleus, as you can see. This is the nucleus that is rounded and placed centrally. And apart from that, it has various bubble-like vacuoles. These are known as the food vacuoles, right? What are these food vacuoles? What happens in them? Let's understand. Because when we are talking about nutrition, these food vacuoles are the ones which play a very important role. Another important thing that you are going to see is that the structure. Now, first of all, I would like you to observe this diagram and see that the structure is not defined. That means amoeba has the ability to change its structure. Apart from that, if you notice, you will not find any kind of organ such as mouth or anus. First of all, because it's a unicellular organism, that means it has just one cell which performs all the function. And other part of this particular thing is that no defined spot is there, right? So because the structure is ever changing, it doesn't have a definite structure. There is a particular type of you can say the transformation the amoeba goes into to get the food, right, to obtain the food. These are the projections that it makes, that is pseudopodia, right? So what it does is that it pushes out one or more finger-like projections called as the pseudopodia or false legs or false feet. So when we write down pseudopodia, this consists of two parts. First is pseudo and other is podia. Pseudo means false and podia means feet. So it projects out finger-like projections called as the pseudopodia. This forms two functions. First is the function of movement and other function is obtaining food, right? How does the pseudopodia help in obtaining food? That is what we are going to discuss in this session. Understand this, amoeba is an organism which lives in water, right? So if you take a drop of pond water and observe that water in microscope in large magnification, you will be able to observe this organism known as the amoeba. Now let's understand the process of the obtaining, or rather how the amoeba obtain food. First of all, the amoeba, like I said, is it's a water dwelling organism. That means it remains in water. So it is, as that it is floating in the water. So any food particle which comes close to it triggers the projection of the pseudopodia. So what happens? Let's understand that with the help of this particular diagram. Now, first of all, as soon as the amoeba senses the food particle, what it does is, as you can see, the food particle is coming closer to amoeba. So amoeba is able to sense it. As soon as it senses the food particle in its vicinity, that means it senses that the food particle is near the body, what it does, it projects out these finger-like, or it throws out the finger-like projection called as the pseudopodia. And the finger-like projection is formed in such a way that the food particle floats into the space created by the pseudopodia. Once the food or the food particle goes into the pseudopodia, what happens is that over here you can see that these pseudopodia merge together to form a food vacuole, right? As you can see over here, this is the food vacuole, right? This causes the food vacuole is the one where the food is digested, right? Over here you can see how the ingestion took place, right? So this process over here is indicating ingestion, right? Once the pseudopodia is captured, other process, that is the digestion process, begins. How does digestion takes place in the food vacuole is by the digestive juices, right? So there are digestive juices which are released in this food vacuole, right? Digestive juices that are released in the food vacuole, which helps in the digestion of the food. Now, once the digestive juices have been released in the vacuole, digestion of the food vacuole takes place. After the digestion has taken place, what happens in digestion, that the complex material is broken down into simpler substances, and these simpler substances are absorbed by the body of amoeba. That is, this. Suppose this is the food. This is the body of amoeba, and here is the food vacuole, and it has been broken down. The particle. This is the food vacuole where the particles, that is the food particles, have broken down and they have been digested, and simpler substances are being formed because of the digestion. These simpler substances diffuses out of these food vacuole into the body of amoeba and are used for various purposes, that is like maintenance, right, growth, reproduction, and so on. So any process which requires energy also, right, reproduction and respiration, all of these processes takes place in the amoeba, right? Now, this was absorption, wherein the simpler substances that are formed are absorbed in the body of the amoeba. Another is your assimilation, that means usage. When this simpler substance, which is absorbed by the body, is utilized for all of these purposes, right? Now, once the body has assimilated or used up, we know that there are some particles which will remain undigested. That means these are the particles which are not required by the body. These particles are to be egested. What will happen, that the food particles will be thrown out of the body by the process known as egestion. How does this happen? Let's see that this food particle which contains undigested waste will come to the surface or near the cell membrane, and over here it will be thrown out by the breaking of the cell membrane. Let me explain it in a better way with the help of example. Suppose now what happens, that this is the food vacuole that we are talking about, right? So this is the food vacuole which contains egested, or which contains the waste material that needs to be egested. So it comes over here such that it comes near the cell membrane. Once it comes near the cell membrane, what will happen, that the cell membrane will open up like this, right? And what will happen, that whatever material, that is the waste material, will be thrown out of the body, right? So in this way we see the egestion that takes place in amoeba. Now over here also, if you observe, the process of nutrition contains again the 5 steps. First of all is the ingestion, then we have digestion, we saw absorption, and then we saw assimilation, and the 5th step is egestion. That means removal of the unwanted or undigested particles. So in this way, why we are studying this particular amoeba or nutrition in amoeba is to understand that all the living organisms require food, right? And the animals specifically have 5 processes in them which help them in obtaining the food, and in the food in turn helps in growth and maintenance of the body, right? So I hope you were able to understand the nutrition in amoeba. Over here, students, I would like to point out that this particular topic is really important, and in exams it is asked to explain as is. That means it can be asked that please describe the nutrition in amoeba, or with the help of a diagram. So please remember to draw the diagram as well, the structure of amoeba and the different process, right? So in this way, students, we come to an end of the chapter. I hope you were able to understand the chapter thoroughly, and you will be able to, whenever asked, you will be able to describe the digestion of human beings, digestion in grass eating plants and amoeba. Thank you.